No, I just been, I stopped in Cebu. Uh, my dad died last year, and he has a bunch of property and stuff out there. I had to kind of deal with his affairs, and I've been speaking more English, so I don't say nah a lot right now. So.
Hey,
I know.
what's up?
But actually, the reason I flew west, I ended up in my visa. So, because I had to fly back so quickly, I had to go through like Koh Samui down south, and I had to deal with like the worst tourists. God, I never really been down south. I guess it's like tourist season, and I was stuck on like a 4-hour flight with like Israeli kids kicking my chair and like playing, like no headphones. I never dealt with anything like this. I was like, can you put your headphones in? They were like, we don't have
very
headphones.
easy. I mean, it's
It's
just like one sentence.
and I was like, oh my god.
Instructions and it's
The thing was, I realized that most people, they're actually just like Americans. Like, I was like, all the things people complain about is like, that's actually what Americans act like, Ron. But because they don't speak English, they're speaking Hebrew, it's the same behavior. Like, in the church,
I figured you can make that response.
That was-
I
it's just like
I have
what's
no
like
reason
America.
to respond to
Yeah,
either.
so, but they're just like American but for Thailand.
Yeah.
So,
And I was like, there's nothing I got really.
For me, it was
so,
less
but the island was alright. Just lots of tourists.
talking stuff.
Hundreds. I don't know, maybe 'cause I've never been that far.
So instead of this,
And in Japan we have tourists too, but
it makes up words.
not like
You know, they start to
everything.
make up new words in English. They keyed up.
But you were planning to come back to fly today?
No. I was planning to be in Japan for a couple more weeks. I didn't get my visa.
So I figured.
I had to fly in using one of the sketchy
Yeah,
visas.
I didn't know like what the context
Like, I'm not on a new visa.
It was late, I was tired, but I was like, I just wanted to give you the thing, and I was like, how about you answer it?
And the only ones that's like open in the
better
country right
at
now is Costa Away.
triangulate.
Because all the other ones are closed and like get
How to
arrested.
use
So,
things that come up.
the only one you can like come in now is like get with Costa Away. That's why I had to go there for a couple days. Which was actually pretty chill. It was only $100. So, the corruption still lives in Costa Away.
Yeah. Oh, lives everywhere.
Yeah, but right now they can't. They're just focusing on stealing people's houses. So I already have like 3 or 4 friends that like they knocked on the doors and they're like, "Check out your house." So, but also like old expat buying a house, not realizing that they can't buy a house. I think some of them really, the lawyers and the agents, they'll tell you, like, they're like, "Oh, we'll figure it out. We'll work it out."
Yeah.
So,
Alright, hold up guys, we're gonna start soon. Let me just figure out how to get the QR code for this thing on screen. Oh, I'm not logged in. Shoot. And I think what I can do here, I think I saw a button, this one. And then I think there's another button somewhere here for. Isn't there like a QR code?
oh, this is the new system you're talking about.
Yeah, it's,
There's a QR code right there.
yeah, that's that right there. There used to be like a page that would open up into.
Live coded. Can we just add a QR code right in the middle of the page?
There, last week when I did this, there was a button there and it would just do that.
There's a joining link. Is that what you're looking for?
what? It doesn't matter.
Did a new model come out? Everybody looks so tired.
I think,
It's never like this before.
Yeah.
yeah, there's always a lot of excitement and hype around when something new came out, let's talk about it. But maybe it's the, I'm curious, is everyone just tired now of the constant releases of shit? It is
Yeah. I can't keep up with it anymore. So.
too much of the same.
I think saturated, yeah. Like there's no
Highly saturated.
nothing is really standing out anymore. Everything is it's a lot of stuff, noise all over the place.
Yeah.
Yeah, good point. There is nothing standing out. I mean, everything that comes out stands out for about a minute, and then
Actually, the models are not getting smarter, they're getting more stupid.
they're getting more stupid.
Yeah.
I don't think the models are getting more stupid. I think that we're
Should
just
we just
dealing.
start with that? Like, all right, let's talk about the models getting more stupid.
No.
Stupid in other vectors.
I think it's just more context fraught and more issues. Like,
Piece of paper.
I think that thing last week where you could send messages between sessions is quite relevant. People really,
well, I think everyone's sending messages between sessions. It's just which harness.
yeah, exactly.
So we just added it to Hermes
So
yesterday.
last week,
So,
big development.
but
Wait, sorry, I didn't hear that. Last week it was the send message from Claude.
Oh, now it's in Hermes and Pi and everything. Like, I think that's actually a.
oh yeah, everybody's rolling it out.
Oh, right. Well, I remember last week there were people saying that already existed in
Oh, yeah,
you
it's
know, like
existed
as
for-
plugins and other stuff. But now you're seeing this, like, I guess what you're talking about is there's a rollout now. People are copying. Although that seems to be the way things go too, right? You sort of something comes out and then very soon it gets copied and it's everywhere else.
make no mistake.
Yeah.
I posted the report about the OpenAI Hugging Face incident, which I posted yesterday, and that's some examples of agents messaging each other. There was an exploit in the package repository, and they figured out that they could create new packages, and they autonomously came up with a way to communicate and collaborate on attacks.
That's
That
wild.
was absolutely fascinating.
That is wild.
Yeah, how are they communicating through?
They were creating packages with just a text file saying, "Hey, I found this exploit. You guys can use it."
Ah, okay.
And when that got locked down, they were creating directory names.
Yes.
By a note.
Oh yeah.
Yes. It's like, hold off for a moment. I'm just testing this. Okay. Go.
Whoa.
So I'd say agents have been able to do that for a long time, ever since probably about 4 or 5 months. It's just they need to coordinate. If an agent has any hint of it's needed to coordinate, it would either try to coordinate through GitHub first, text messages, like anything it can access. Codex actually has had messaging for what, like 2 or 3 months now?
They've had it, yeah, for a very long time. The ability for one thread to talk to other threads, for one thread to maybe, no, it cannot spawn other threads, but they can send messages, I believe, right?
So they can. So it's a bug in the prompting. They can spawn agents and threads. It's literally only prompt guardrail. So side threads and threads, it says do not spawn a subject without permission. But if you just change the prompting or skill, it will
Sure.
spawn as many threads as it wants.
Sure. But nonetheless, we're moving in a world where this is becoming a norm anyways. Like I was just playing with Grokbot during the week, and if you load up Grokbot, every bot that you make in this platform can send messages to other agents, can spawn other agents, and like there's just a lot of control that the agents basically have on their own. So that's a thing. And now I remember now, actually. So we spoke last week. Daisy had showed her architecture, which was like a shitload of agents. Didn't explain how that was set up. I assumed it was all done in the cloud. And they were all definitely talking to each other because that was part of that send message feature that came out. And that whole thing segues into, I think, it's one of the topics on here. And I think it's a really interesting topic, which is like, what agent architectures that are sort of emerging now. I think we're starting to see a big movement away from the one-to-one screen. You're starting to see movement away from even using sub-agents, and instead seeing this, like, you have these remote agents that exist maybe an orchestrator agent can talk to them, maybe it can control them, and it's so like what's came out in the last 2 weeks. You have this ridiculous name called Orbs. I don't know if anyone saw this from. So the company that does the AMP harness, Thorsten Bell, the guy, one of the guys who wrote something on compilers, I have no idea, and they created what's called Orbs, which is like this concept of remote agents. There's another thing that came out called EXE Dev, which was super fucking cool. I think this is incredible. Using it right now. I don't know if it, so I'll do this real quick because there's so many other ones that are there, but EXE Dev, you sort of get this VM, you get this like shared hardware, you get this hardware and you can create 50 VMs, up to 50 VMs per rack or something that they give you, and you can just shove agents in them. And it's designed in a way so that agents can spin up these like little cells, so to
Virtual
speak.
machines on the fly.
Yeah, and so you have like remote agents. It's super, super cool. I kind of wish I had a visual display
What's
to
the price
explain
of
it.
It's $20 a month for 50 VMs.
Oh, that's really good.
Yeah.
And who's the one that made it? It was the guys
It's
from.
like the CEO of Airtable and the CTO from Vercel, or not Vercel, something. But it's like a power team. And they got
What's
like
the specs
4
on those? Is it shared?
It's shared. It's 8. I think the base is like 8 gigs. It's expensive.
So here we go. So $20 a month gets you 50 VMs, 100 gigabytes pooled disk, and 200 gigabytes data transfer. And but the beauty of the whole thing is how if you can give access to, let's say, your Claude.
Yeah, it's like agent first.
It's agent first.
It's like you once you have an account, you just never go to it ever again. And just-
Oh, that's
yeah,
nice.
yeah.
You can manage everything because it has this like Shelly agent it's called, and then it like connects with your Claude and it can just do it anything you
Whatever
want
it needs to
with
do.
the client. It has like it ships with like with a bunch of command like a CLI commands, and then it's tied to your computer through your RSA, and then yeah, it's just it's hard to explain. It's just like really like.
So are you using it for
fast and
testing?
smooth. I'm using it for a lot of things. I'm running long-running agents on it.
Mm.
It's a persistent disk, so it's like I actually have standing projects on it. So like
Are you running
my
them-
Eve agents are running on it.
Oh, you're running Eve agents, okay? Like, cause I know Codex is on
But
the
it's
next
like I
now.
just run. I can run like I run my Claude,
On
my
it as well.
Claude on
Oh,
it
okay.
from my computer because you just do you just SSH eve.dev or exe.dev and you log right into the machine and then you can just spin up Claude.
I notice I'm not seeing anything on the memory, actual memory. It's pool disk, but not like CPU
It's in there.
or RAM.
It's in there somewhere.
Because to run Claude is actually it's got to be pretty high, at least 16 gigabytes.
It automatically, so each VM ships with Claude, OpenAI, Grok, already on the box, Node, like, a bunch of
We keep track of.
It doesn't have the RAM. I know you're looking for the RAM, but I don't. I think it was. Oh no, it's right here. It's depending on how you. So
You can adjust.
You can
it.
adjust
it. You can adjust it, okay.
Yeah.
What's the difference from just having VPS?
Price, but it's just because it's agent first. It's
Well,
like-
actually, what you're.
What's the difference in price and what you
Well, Hetzner's 150
Well, if
for
you-
the same
if you
thing.
run
I
the
think.
same, if you run the same thing here on DigitalOcean, it's like $5,000 a month. Here
Okay.
it's
But
$20.
it says pool. Is it shared or something like that?
It's pooled across the 50 VMs that you have
Yeah.
up to you.
Well, so it's probably you're not actually so you're getting like one server, and then you can spin up as many as you want of that. So it's just a better managed version of Dio or Hetzner or any of those, like where it's probably got a better CLI, better because
It's a bit more managed, like it has those pre-installed stuff and.
Definitely.
Yeah,
It's
it's
definitely
got a
more
whole
managed,
library of like it's like one button click spin up like a software factory.
Well, the entire interface is meant for your agents to use. It's like has nothing at all with you as a human to be used, and it's meant to spin up these sort of cloud agents. You know, everyone with the whole laptop open ordeal going on. Don't close your laptop. Well, we're moving away from that, right? So one way that you can move away from it is using
You
this
just
sort of
open-
setup.
Open Claude in one of these VMs from your computer, work on it there, shut your screen while it's working.
Maybe one good way to talk about this, 'cause we come back to this in a second then. So what we can talk about is, we'll just start with Grokbot because it's
Yes.
just a good architecture. It's got an architecture that we can piggyback off of. So in Grokbot, when you, and I'll just open it, I have it here. In Grokbot, the way this works, has anyone used it by any chance?
Not yet.
It's like a whole new paradigm. It's really cool. It's like it's.
So you
Cursor's
actually-
new-
it's really-
It's Cursor's new like super app, essentially, but it does a lot more than it looks like. It looks like very basic, but there's a lot more going on.
'Cause I thought it was just hype, so I couldn't.
No, it's like it's Cursor's new product.
But is it like forcing you in the IDE too, or is this Grok
No.
right here?
This is Grokbot right here.
Oh, okay.
So it's, so
It's a
the,
very simple chat app, but it has like all this like local and remote and a standalone virtual machine that it runs off of. And
'Cause what I'm hearing was, like online, was it's like the OpenClaw, but 10 times better for Grok.
I think it's more than OpenClaw. There's a lot of stuff behind the scenes. Like you can see that it's. I mean, it's. A
OpenClaw's dead. I just
full
mean from like the
coding
hype
agent.
side of.
If you spin up like anything complex, it spins up a Cursor cloud agent and does it all in the cloud and syncs right back on in your local machine. You can work on your local machine or in the cloud simultaneously. It's got agent,
So are you liking-
agent communication.
Are you liking using Grok? Or are both of y'all using
Yes.
Grok now?
we've
Or-
had
or-
it for, well, we got so some months back, Grok did a deal with like $99 per month for Grok Heavy or something.
Yeah.
And we just jumped on it. It's actually gonna end this month, but it turns out they released,
Another deal, right?
no, well, they released this, this product along with the 4.6 model.
And then
But-
4.7 in 3 weeks supposedly, which
Yeah.
is crushing.
But for everyone in the room, let me sort of explain, at least so that you all understand the architecture here. So so Grok just drew this up. Let's see if we can use that. Can everyone see that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right. So check it out. So let's try to interpret what Grok did. This is my computer, and let's look here. You have this Linux container, and this is where the Grok bots live. They all live inside that one little container. It's a Linux container. It does have a graphical user interface, and when you talk to your Grok bots, they're inside there. So all of their transcripts, all the data that they're using resides in that machine. And they have like specific tools on their harness that, for example, so my laptop locally, they can extract data from it or they can push data onto it. Now, what they can also do, these Grok bots, is from that shared machine, this one right here, this shared agent machine, they can also access the Cursor cloud infrastructure. And so they're able to, each Grok bot is able to spin up its own Cursor cloud agents, and they can spin up as much as they want. They can be emiferal, they can be long running. And so I have seen people talk about, like from the Cursor team, who have like 12 cloud agents like just constantly running, and their Grok bot, which is sitting in that shared machine, is listening on them and sort of handling it. And there's like now these sort of complex setups where there's like multiple Grok bots, each one tracking its own tree of cloud agents. And what this means is like we're moving towards this remote, this world of like agents are going to be remote. You can close your laptop. You probably don't even need, honestly, you don't even really need it anymore because this app in particular is on the phone, so you don't even need a computer. Here's an example. So like, if I open this thing here, you can actually see into the shared state computer that the Grok bots have access to. It's just a normal Linux container with really nothing on it except for Chrome. And why is that? My suspicion is because it's just the best. Like, right now, I think one of the hard problems with agents is you want them to have access to a browser, but you don't want them to use like the accessibility tree from Playwright, or you would prefer not to. You would prefer them to be able to render the actual screen and do work. So I think this is what, so my understanding is Cursor is just like, you know what? This is how I think about it. I think Cursor said, we see people with their their thumb in their laptop and they're not closing it. How about we just give them a laptop that's always on and it's in the cloud? I think that's literally what they just thought of. And then that's how you end up with Grokbot. And then coming back to what I said earlier, you have this concept of orbs from AMP, same shit. You have the exe dev thing that we were just talking about, same shit, except you can control, you have more control over it since it's got a, you know, you can control that infrastructure. It's a bit more raw, so to speak. Who else has gone remote? You have Devon has gone remote, I believe. Factory's gone remote. Like, so we're just seeing this really big push towards getting the agents off of running locally, getting them running remotely. I think open code as well is now moving towards a server, client-server architecture.
Codex's next update, everything is going remote next month. So.
Yeah, and they've been talking about that also for the last couple of weeks about moving everything basically into the cloud.
It's
So
just easier for them architecturally and pricing and everything wise.
yeah.
Claude just did an update yesterday with more remote features. I got an update last night.
I haven't even seen that. I did not see that. So is anyone here using remote agents by any chance, or is everyone just still running locally? Curious, who's running remote agents? Anybody? Anybody? Do you want to share by any chance? I'm just curious what you're running. Oh, yeah, that counts. Yeah. Hermes agents is remote. That's true.
Oh, are you using Hermes on the Hermes plan on the cloud, or are you using?
I'm using my
So you're running Hermes locally, but
no, running Hermes on a
VPN.
VPS.
Ah, okay. Because I did most of the patches this last week for all the remote gateway stuff. So the remote gateways are really working well.
And I saw that yesterday I was testing out the new box feature.
Yeah.
They also just launched the Hermes box. So how is it? I haven't really had much time.
And it's buggy as shit. So,
Yeah.
but Hermes is moving more towards. We've had a little bit more bugs lately because it's moving really fast, and there's no competitor that's like OpenCloud doesn't exist anymore, basically. So they're pushing a little bit more on that side.
What is Hermes Fate? Is it?
Fate?
Yeah, the Fate. Like, is it still like I don't know. You know, I see so many things that are out in the world.
So everyone's saying right now it's like Hermes #1 as a harness. Actually, our scores on benchmarks is crazy good. We beat Codex. From a memory perspective, we beat Codex and Claude, but like the default harness. So there's been a ton of work on the harness. I mean, there's like 60 engineers now just working on doing benchmarks on the harness constantly. The problem is most of Hermes users are not technical. I mean, that like capacity, so they're not really, they don't care about that shit.
Sure.
So it's really just internal team stuff. But Hermes as a harness is really good now. And the only thing that's buggy is the remote gateway is a little bit buggy. We've been trying to fix that. But you can run everything, like I run everything off the cloud. All my users run off their cloud, and then basically you can sign in remotely from anywhere, kind of like the remote features of Codex. Those all have been rebuilt, but overall, I think Hermes is easily one of the better harnesses. It's just that nobody really thinks about it that way because it's like a harness of harnesses, right? You
Yeah.
just plug anything into it.
Oh, right, yeah.
And they don't really serve any models or anything. News Research does have models, but they're so behind, it doesn't matter. And so, but yeah, I mean, as a harness, I work on the memory side. It's doing really well, and I mean,
Cool. It's like there's so much stuff. Like coming back to what we were talking about in the beginning, there's so much stuff. It's overwhelming. It's almost to the point that it's not even exciting, and all of that stuff will come in 1 second. Is like everything else. So like okay, you have this Grokbot thing. You have this Claude tag thing. You have what is it? Zerp from Spotify. Did anyone see this by any chance? Spotify released their own
is the music
harness. Yeah, well, yes. Spotify has this. I think it's called Zerp or something like that. It's their own agent harness platform. Also using remote agents. We also have, who else came out? There was
DeepSeek released their harness too, right? Everyone's been chirping about that.
DeepSeek's got one. I don't know if it's remote. Cloudflare OS, which came out the previous week. So there's just like all these different directions. All of them have like more like kind of different architectures. Most of them are using remote agents in some sense. But yeah, if I'm overwhelmed. We were talking earlier about being overwhelmed. I'm overwhelmed. I don't know what to make of it. I don't really know what to do or how to proceed with all this information. Yes, go ahead.
What with Hermes as an agent, if you lost it and you were forced back to only Codex and Claude, what are the main things you would miss? You know, I'm trying to.
So the main thing. So I'll tell you that on the Hermes side, any new feature that the other, like from a feature perspective, the harness is way beyond Claude Code and Codex. I mean, we have so many features, it's insane.
Give me what's a tangible?
So, I mean, we have the tag system, right? It's fine. You want to set that up. The bot system's fine. There's a new feature now, part of the built-in CUA, computer use, where you can literally just like use it on any app and anything you're doing at any point in time. Like you just hover over something and the agent just, okay, like take over this for me. People really are loving that a lot. Like you can just open it up inside of Chrome or anything like that and just say, hey, do this, and it just goes ahead and starts doing it, like instantly, versus having to go into Codex and tell it to do something. You can just have your agent, it's more integrated with the local Mac. If I had to miss something, it's probably the team's really like harness bench focused, so like everything is on that, and I think that's actually where everyone's moving, even if they're not talking about it, is because what we found is if you, like the harness is either hurt or help, and because the teams are building, like the harness is so fast, then their scores are just getting, like, oh, I added this new feature, and now the agent's dumb as shit. Like Omar and I talk about this all the time, like, oh, this new feature comes out, and now they've changed the prompting, and now the agent's just acting totally contrary. And Hermes teams focus on everything they do is, okay, we're not going to release this until we rebench this. We're not going to change this prompting in the system until we've rebenched it constantly. And I think that's just probably the systematic approach. That now Hermes releases are happening a little slower because of that, and most of the features are more ephemeral, like add-on UI things, really customized, like you can build it however you like. I mean, we built board state into it, so you can, I mean, whatever UI you want, you just tell the agent, and now you have a new UI. So Hermes is becoming more of a, anyone play Pokemon? Like Ditto? Literally just transforms into whatever harness you like, and then they're just focused on, like, you know, and literally just, if you want to change the UI, add new buttons, it's all built in. And so that's what it's becoming. So it's hard to describe what I'd like because Codex is not changeable, right? I can, if I patch it, it's a fucking nightmare. Whereas Hermes, I can just add whatever patch I want, and then, you know, and it works still.
It's a coding harness. I mean, if it could be just a drop into Claude or Codex or Pi, just a coding harness without anything else, would you still recommend it?
So as a coding harness, I find that, I mean, I still use Claude Code plus Codex, and I have my own system, LCO, that I use to manage all of them. But that's also because I just like so two things I like about Hermes. Hermes, everything has a really good steering system, and it's as good as Claude Code's. Codex's steering system's kind of junk. I had to like patch around it, right?
When you say steering system, you're referring to
just talking to the agent. So like in Claude Code right now, I don't know if you're using, like you can talk to the agent, it's only really with Fable 5. Opus 5 kind of will go off in tangents, but if you're using Fable 5, you can just talk to the agent constantly while it's working, and it just keeps working. You're having conversations, you're still adding things in, it doesn't lose track. Like Fable 5 is really good at that. And the Claude Code harness is really good at steering where it's not going to derail them. Because it's really harness based. Like if you send a message and the steering system will either reinforce and tell the agent to keep working on it or steer in a different direction. Hermes basically copied that entire code out of Claude Code for the steering system. So it's very similar, but it's for all agents, not just Fable 5. Fable 5 has its own steering, like whereas Opus does not. It uses a different prompt system for steering and hooks. But I mean, I just like if you open up Hermes and you can just talk to any agent and it's working and it keeps track of it and the overall memory is good. And so, but I guess to your point, I'm long-winded. Do I use it for coding? Yeah, but I still use the other harnesses for what they're useful for.
Does it have like feature parity? Like if I wanted to take my setup from what I have right now, and just use Hermes for everything. Would that work?
Yeah, Hermes is
What
built
are
for
you using?
migration.
Sorry?
What are you using? What is your setup?
OMP right
OMP.
now. All my Pi.
Yeah. Oh my.
Oh,
Pi,
my
right,
Pi,
right,
ah.
yeah. On for everything you're doing, like knowledge work, coding, all that stuff.
The only thing I really need right now is coding, so yes, that's my use case. So I'm wondering, like, Hermes is so good. I mean, channels, messaging, all this cool stuff. So if it's so good, like, why not just
You migrate everything
drop
over?
everything in there?
Try it, yeah. I mean, the good thing about Hermes is it has built-in migration, so you can just migrate everything over and then test it. Test them one-to-one.
I'd love to pull the root. Well, actually, no. Actually on that point, migrating over. Does anybody worry about? Because I do. I worry about stuff like, I'm looking at Claude Code yesterday and the other day. I'm thinking about Hermes. I'm thinking about Codex, and then I'm looking at this new stuff that's just coming out, EXE Dev, Cursor Cloud Agents, and I'm thinking, it's better if one of these die. These older systems should just die. Trying to live with them when new technologies just seem so much better, it's so much further ahead. So in my head, I'm thinking like, how are you supposed to traverse this?
It's picking the right technology that sucks. Because if you, let's say you go with Dropbot and it doesn't go anywhere and Hermes goes ahead and you go, what camp should I be in?
That's another point. That's it. That's absolutely another thing. Like, how do you calculate that? How are you even supposed to think about that?
I mean, you don't need to.
Huh?
You don't need to. If you want to migrate, then you should just ask agents how to do migration. We're done. I just come back to Cloud after a few months on Codex and on my Pi.
But I don't feel it's the migration, it's the challenge, it's the feeling of
I can tell you how I did
using-
my migration. I used the code and I went to all my Pi and I worked inside my sandbox and I just gave GPT 5.6 Soul a task, just migrate this whole thing to all my Pi, including all my setup, find for every little thing like hooks, sub-agents, how to migrate it to all my Pi, do benchmarks, use T-hooks and run all my Pi live and verify that everything works. I gave it like test cases, it did the whole thing from start to end.
Yeah, I hear that, and I think, okay, great. The agent can do it, can move it for you, but how much did that cost? Like if you're gonna run your evals on a new harness system thing, obviously your evals are gonna change, so you'll need to rerun them, and you'll need to grow your eval net
And you have to
framework.
fix things that don't transfer.
Yeah, so I'm just curious, like how are you supposed
How much what cost, the migration or the evals?
to both? I guess
Yeah, the overall migration cost.
The migration was like one session, one big session of GPT 5.6 Soul from start to end with all its sub-agents or whatever, just one session, it did with the whole
So like
migration.
30% of your weekly then.
No, it was like, maybe, okay. I mean, depends on their mood, they're changing stuff, but it was maybe like 5 or 10% of my weekly, and I got a migration, and then I just had to check that it works, and it had like a little few things that it got wrong, but it maybe hallucinated a little stuff, so I had to fix it, but it wasn't a big deal at all. I mean, it was quite easy. The bigger challenge for me was not about the static migration, it was just the learning curve, like, okay, new harness, they have new slash commands, new settings, so now I have to get a bit of new habits. That took more time than the actual migration, and it was much more successful than the tokens, so I had to adjust myself to a few things.
Sure.
But it was not a big deal at all. And the most important thing here is build your whole system to be harness agnostic, so you don't get so much locked into cloud code or whatever.
I'd love to query the room. What do you guys think that means? So, and I love it. Like harness agnostic. What does that mean?
My
Is it?
hooks
how
are
do- what do you
not
decouple
hooked
from-
code? My hooks are generic neutral scripts that live somewhere and have little thin buffers that just take the cloud code format and call that script, or the all my Pi, like the Pi extension format, and call that script. And the skills are like, okay, so they have a little bit different font matter fields, so adjust it. They call it like this and they call it like this, so change the field.
The problem is, I think, was to be harness agnostic. I don't think you can be harness agnostic. He can, in his perspective, because he's on Oh My Pi, which is like very thin, right? If he tried to move back into Claude Code, literally everything's going to break and it's going to be a mess, right? Because Claude Code is.
Or if you
Not
moved into
necessarily,
these
because
remote.
if I have some very important hooks that I built, most of the hook system is not related to either of them. It's neutral, just Python crypt. And I can call it from either a Pi extension system or from Claude, the way they have their own hook format, and it doesn't matter. Just do the conversion in one place.
Yeah, the problem is that the codecs and Cloud Code are becoming more closed off. They're not adding more APIs and more integrations and more ability to
All
add
the
in.
harnesses are becoming kind of, I mean, especially with the whole
I
remote,
think I get this question
remote
again,
agent.
because Pi is more flexible. It has
Yeah.
more extension points, so I get it. So if you build your own Pi and it has this creative flexibility, and then you try to go back to close code,
That's exactly what I'm
you're
trying
gonna
to
get
say.
stuck.
You're going to, like, it's because Pi, by like definition, is the agnostic approach,
Right,
right?
right.
And then by trying to move back to anything else, it's going to be hard because now you're surrounded by this new walled valley of like, okay, I don't have hooks for this, and then it might not all fit.
But I probably wouldn't want.
But-
So, one of my favorite, you may know this one, some of you guys may know this one, tech history stories of all time is that MySpace built on .NET, and they were winning, right? MySpace was going to be what Facebook is now. And their scale got to a point, there's a great blog about this on high scalability website, where things in .NET were breaking, and because they were beholden to Microsoft, closed source software, all they could do is send like patch requests to Microsoft and hope. And so Facebook built on LAMP, right? And they could just build, and like, their famous hip hop thing that, made
Yeah.
Python performant. So I always, that's an old story now. But this agnosticism about staying away from being beholden, I feel like that's what a CTO is fundamentally at some level, right? They are the ones who pick the tech stack that everyone uses, and
Sure.
the point being that MySpace is probably maybe the most famous story in tech history of you picked the wrong tech stack and you went from the winner to not existing. And so I just think this question is very important, and is anyone else seeing that? Sorry, Ian, but like from what I'm seeing,
I
a
know where
lot
this
of
is
people
going.
are starting to hate Anthropic. Now the new thing with Epstein, his wife is all Epstein Valley. Yeah, whatever.
Wait.
I know. But I'm just saying.
We'll keep
it's
it technical. We'll keep it
yeah,
technical.
Yeah, totally.
Wait.
But the hatred of Anthropic with the watermarking, right?
Right,
That
right.
This is okay.
To be fair, they're all doing the water.
Well,
They're
it-
just getting singled out. for one
Fair
reason.
enough, fair enough. But the point being that, like, I feel, the reason I even bring it up, I don't want to derail, is that things being closed is dangerous. There are winners, right? Like Windows 1 and, like whatever. But it's a dangerous gambit, I guess
Yeah.
is how I would
Totally.
describe it. And
Totally.
To take it back to the technical bit, there might be a middle ground between the Pi that you talked about. Sorry, what is it?
no,
And
please, I'm done.
there's, like you mentioned earlier, Nick, that open code is now client server. So you can
Yeah.
actually hook into like a more traditional harness with its UI and everything, with an API service that's already been thought of. And that could be orchestrated by Hermes or
Yeah, it could
whatever
be.
else.
I'm curious where you're going with this. Like, I want to know, one, what are all the options? What are the trade-offs? Should you go down certain paths? But then there's like this other thing in the back of my mind that's like, well, okay, well let's just play a fun game for a moment. Like, you have a situation like this Grok build thing and with the cursor cloud agents, and can you be massively more productive with that than like some Pi setup? Like does just using that technology advancement that they have, does that just make you far more productive? And then you're like, well, I have to choose between that
Exactly.
or not getting locked in. But then like all the other vendors are going in that direction anyways. What are you gonna? I don't know what to think of it. I'm honestly just
You
confused.
can have your stuff on Pi and you can use from Pi whatever you want. It doesn't limit you. It doesn't tell you, you have to use this provider, this workflow. You can do some stuff in Pi locally, and you can also do stuff on the cloud with whatever provider you like. So
I guess, yeah. I'm curious around the room, what's everyone's setup? What are you all using? Can shout it out.
I like Irma's idea of creating scripts that are agnostic to the harness, because let's be honest, 6 months from now, everybody's going to be using a harness that doesn't exist yet, right? And so if you can focus on doing things that kind of give you abstractions that you can reuse in any context, I think that's a good approach, because I'm listening to this conversation, there's this agent, there's this agent, there's this agent. Yeah, 6 months is going to be completely different, so plan for that.
So does that mean just focus on the core primitives, and we would need to declare those, which sounds like hooks, skills?
Build tools that you can
build.
use.
Oh,
so
interesting.
that if you want to, let's say you've got a thing where, I don't know, you want to analyze a video and cut it into segments, right? Instead of having an agent and trying that same task with a bunch of different agents, like have an agent write a tool that does that, and then you've got the tool. And then next time you want to do the same task, you can just tell the agent, hey, I've got this tool, here's the readme for it.
Sure.
Use that.
So
And then you're not, you're automating more of what you're doing.
So I take that approach, and rather than thinking of it as a tool, I escalate it to micro application.
Yes.
Every time I do a micro app, I think of it from a user interface point of view, and then delete the user interface and make sure I use CQRS patterns in the core. Because if you've got command query separation in the core of your micro app, you can then put a HTTP or whatever interface to it that makes it agent drivable. So then your third-party agent system, Hermes or whatever, just says, well, use the application, just do it. This is what OpenDesign does. Only they put the chat window in with the application, but you don't have to. You can put the chat outside and just say, here is my durable application. It's got an interface. In that video generation one, you can see the images, you can drag them around, or you can ask the agent to drag them around based on what it thinks is the best way to do. So I think building micro apps to solve all your bespoke business problems, but giving them all that agent access so that you don't actually have to be in the interface is an interesting
And I
approach.
think if you, depending on the situation, it might make sense to expose that as an MCP. So
Yeah, so the MCP
right.
should be part of the core of it, or APIs, because it depends on how you want to use it. In fact, I prefer the idea of you have all the APIs and then you put an MCP on top of it.
Oh, that's one thing that we just added to Hermes, I think last week, was you can plug in any API and the system will just build an MCP for it automatically.
MCP is, I think MCP is completely unnecessary. We already have REST, we have GraphQL. There's been, you know, over the last few decades, there's been so many different remote procedure call protocols. Just use REST and or GraphQL. They're existing mature systems. I don't see the point really.
MCPs is a pro and con on both. I mean, MCP is more agent native from a knowledge. You don't need to have to read the whole dev docs, right? But MCPs can be heavy, and there can be different, like when you load all the MCPs at once. If you don't optimize and doctor your MCPs constantly, like at least once a month, you can literally have MCPs that are crashing. Like there's not really a native error logging to them in the sense of like tracking. I think Claude Code and Codex have both added Docker skills now to fix your MCPs because they do break and you just don't catch them, which can lead to actually one of the I don't know if Thibaut, one of the Codex team had posted about this. They're like, people that are having tokens per second issues, a lot of the time it's because your hooks are taking too long back between, and you're actually getting like lower response times because your hooks are breaking, and you just don't know, or the hook's taking too long, and then your MCP sometimes can take like a minute, and so like one of the reasons like you're getting really slow to TPS on Codex is because of the old integrations, MCPs, and so some of the Codex team have
But that
recommended.
can happen with the REST server.
Oh, it can happen at anything. Yeah.
Hit an endpoint, you're stuck there waiting for it to process.
And the agent will not tell you they're waiting. So, but that's one of their things that they're trying to figure out is how do we not slow everything down by these system approaches. And that's why like Codex is moving away from like the batch tool calling. So I used to be like very pro batch tool calling, like, oh, let's do it. But one of the problems is when you do a batch tool call, if one of those tool calls goes to an MCP or fails out, then the whole call is now stuck. And that's one of the reasons they're trying, like and their own benchmarks, they're like, they built the batch tool calling, but it's like half broken right now because they just can't figure out how to use everything in the new system. It's almost like we need something new besides MCPs and a better integration because Codex is stuck. Like they're still on V2 multi-agent and they haven't fixed it because anytime they go back to multi batch tool calling, it literally our MCPs and like that, people start complaining about TPS. So,
did you have a question?
Yeah, I got all the discussion about the whole technology, like we use the new harness in 6 months, but my experience right now is that, maybe it's my issue, that like 6 months ago, with technology like less advanced, the outcome we get
was
like
better.
faster, better, cheaper. So we have this fancy tools, pages, workflows, now this
Threaded messaging, yeah.
And the cost has gone up?
Does it improve the output quality? Or is it, just new shiny thing?
Honestly, I agree with you. I still have better outcomes with 5.5 than I do 5.6, no matter how much I optimize for it. So
I think it's a good question, and I think there's a lot of nuance. I would love to hear what folks in the room think about this advancement of technology. Like, I'm curious if anybody here has basically closed off their eyes and ears and said, I don't give a fuck about all this stuff coming out. I'm still using something from January, and it's fine.
I'm doing that.
Could you share, like, what do you got going on?
The way I think, actually, Boris, I love this. I can't remember which of the recent Boris interviews was, but he said it a bunch of times. He started coding to cheat on math tests, right, on his TI-83.
Oh, yeah,
right?
yeah. The YC talk, I think.
Yeah, I think it was the YC talk, yeah. And then that evolved, and I think he had to learn a more advanced language to test on, cheat on calculus, because it didn't work on a, and then, I think they had a YC startup doing something with weed, like weed maps or something like that. So he said, like, my thing with coding is always, what's my problem in my real life? And I want to solve that. And I've always been like that naturally. Actually, all the things you said were, I agree. And so that's why, so think about like why I asked Andrew the question I asked. It's like, what am I missing now from my real life that Hermes might add to my life? And so I want to stay abreast of everything, but like thus far, nothing. I mean, my peak was Opus 4.5. I think everything for me has been downhill since Opus 4.5. And so that's fine, because I can just keep trudging along with all the ideas I have and the existing stuff and my existing workflows from last November.
Sure.
Still are working fine. Add a skill here and an MCP there and an API there. And I'm waiting. I keep waiting. Okay, is multiplayer the thing? Is Buzz the thing? Is this the thing? Thus far, no.
Yeah. Yeah, actually, I think I love that you bring this up because it makes me realize that there are, maybe the way to talk about this is categorically. We have to talk about it in categories. Maybe we've already peaked on the one-to-one interaction side. Like you talk with your agent directly, and that's fine. There's like nothing left to advance there. You talk with your Claude, your Codex, you do some work, great. Why all this remote agent? Why all that stuff? Well, there are the problems with the one-to-one interaction is that, my understanding is that if you're in a team or in a company, shit gets hard to send data to, like the whole multiplayer aspect is really difficult. And moving towards a multiplayer world is like, you got to get out of that, this paradigm that we were living in from January. You got to move more towards like, if I have, for example, like Vercel did the thing about their software factory. I don't know if it's true, but it's like, okay, well, if you have these 10 remote agents in the cloud and your team of 6 developers submit a feature request, they will always get processed by this 10 agent sitting in the cloud. There's no one here to basically say like, it should be done this way or that way. No, it's settled, it's sitting up there. I don't need your laptop open. I don't need to send you the ticket for you to process it through your agent graph. The graph is sitting online. That makes sense to me. That multiplayer aspect makes sense to me. If you leave the company, I don't care. The agents are still up in the cloud. That's fine. So maybe it's about that category, right? Single player versus multiplayer. Most of you here in the room, I'm guessing, are single player. I am myself. So who cares about the multiplayer stuff? Maybe that's.
Totally with him about everything he said. I mean, you solve problems where you're at. You don't deal with problems that don't exist in your world.
Totally.
All this hype and new tools that come out every day are very destructive. If you try to keep up with stuff and try the new cool thing every day, you're not going to be productive. You're not going to focus on what you need to do. You're just going to, somebody posted a tweet, I got to download and try this tool. I mean, what are you actually trying to achieve today? I mean, does it help you or not? I mean, it's the same approach like when you have software dependencies, like in NPM file or whatever. I mean, you upgrade when you need to upgrade. Otherwise, you pin to some stable dependency and it works and it's stable and does a good job. And if they release a new feature and you really need it, then you do the migration. And migration is costly. Like you asked me about the migration from Cloud to OpenPy. Yeah, it's costly. It took me a few days to get used to it. I mean, it takes some tokens. So every kind of migration, every kind of new tool that you start to use is going to cost you time and productivity.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
do you actually need to do it? I mean, what are you trying to achieve with this? I mean, are you just trying to catch up with the hype so you can talk about it? Or
so I find this question again of fix the problem in front of you, and I'm not into the multi stuff at all. My problem is the turn. That's the only problem. The prompt in front of me and what the next prompt is going to be. It's the turn. And so I'm building multiple applications there. One is a real-time voice agent, so I can talk about the turn because I get a wall of text, and what I currently do is I have some Claude preferences that I can do a BTW command and to write the next prompt for me. I give it basic information, it writes a really detailed prompt, and I just keep moving on. It works well, but there's two things that I notice when I'm looking at like this prompt, this wall of text in front of me. There's three decisions that I've got to navigate, right? And I can't read it. So I have a voice agent that I'm talking to in real time, and it's reading my Claude session, and it's reading the turn, and it's building a dossier of decisions, like observations, that sort of stuff. And then the other application I'm building is a multi-agent harness that fits around me like an entourage. So I should be able to talk to the turn and the conversation, but have my entourage say, have you thought of it from this point of view? Like surface questions, that sort of stuff. And that's my approach to look at the problem in front of me. My problem in front of me is this shit right here, and I'm not trying to spin up multiple agents. I would like the dossier to say, we think you should do a workflow, a dynamic workflow or a goal or whatever, but I don't want to think that through. I just want it to come to me and just move on to the next turn.
I actually like what you're saying there, because I think Nick was right, and that a lot of us don't use the multiplayer aspect, and so we kind of are like, oh, why does this even exist? Why do we need this, right? It's like, but my users are all multiplayer companies, and so I'm constantly having to figure out how to integrate with them. But then I would, like, Cloud Code has this problem, and Codex does not, like, Codex kind of solves it, so like, what you do, I do in Codex with multiple side threads. So literally, because there's this problem, like, I think we have hit the peak velocity of what a one-to-one can do, right? Because as long as you're stuck in the same paradigm, which is talking to one agent, context, etc. So really, the next level is only being able to pause, do a fork in a nice, not having to complex simplify it in any way, where I can just talk to that agent. And like, by the way, doesn't do it, right? Like, by the way, it's slow. It doesn't do exactly what you're trying to do.
It's slow and it's synchronous. You can't do it in parallel.
Yeah, exactly. And you can't pass it back. And that's a Claude Code issue. But like, I solved this in Codex by I spin up 3 or 4 side threads, and they all talk to each other. And I don't even talk to the main thread anymore at all in Codex. I literally spin up several side threads always at any point in time, and they end up just doing their task. They talk to each other. I have them check on what it is because it's much faster. And I accomplish what you're doing with this, because I can do voice act as well, and spin up 3 or 4 side threads. They all talk to each other. Okay, should we add something else? And then we just put all that together in one, and then we put it back to the main thread. Because the problem, to get to the fastest velocity, I think the issue is always, at this point, velocity, right? It's not about can we accomplish it.
I think there's many
it's like how much faster can you go?
But I'm not trying to go to fastest velocity. I'm trying to go, what's the quickest way to the most accurate long horizon prompt? That's all I want to do.
But that's exactly what I'm talking about, right?
Because-
It's like, how are you trying to solve that issue of, if you start talking to the main agent about it, now you derail the main agent, now you have some rot in there, right? And so ultimately, at the end of the day, it's always going to be, how do we get to our end goal faster, right? Without issues, bugs, and derailing the main agent, right?
But I still talk to them. So my main agent, one of the first things it has is a North Star. Has a very detailed North Star, which is non-technical. It's just, David won't be happy unless he
Project
can do
goals.
this stuff. Yeah, but it's the how does it feel to use it? That's what we're going towards. It doesn't matter how you get there from a technical point of view. And so then when I'm on that long horizon prompt that I need to build, I do want a team of agents looking at the edge cases so that they deliver this one long prompt for that one agent to go off and keep working. Then I can go to the next project and do the same thing that way. I think I loved listening to Tom talk at that meeting 6 months ago where he had his 4 computers. And I just want to go, okay, I'm going to talk to this computer for 20 minutes and then it's going to work for 6 hours and I'll move on to the next computer and talk to it for 20 minutes.
I mean, that sounds like remote agents to me.
Yeah,
Sounds.
but I want to have a good amount of human in the loop decision making going there.
I see.
Not pure managed agents. I don't want that shit.
Okay. All right. Yep.
So I'm wondering, in terms of your kind of Hermes development, so you work on a large team, would multiplayer help that development?
Hermes team, by definition, because they're not selling anything, Hermes is built by Hermes. Like, you're not allowed to use any other tool.
Okay.
So, like, because the Codex team
I'm not talking about
uses.
tool, I'm talking about the technique of multiplayer agent interaction for software development, open source software.
So the team, everyone uses a different setup. Technium uses a couple of agents, and he just like designs it for like one. And so he might be using a couple sessions separately, but I would say that that's actually probably what slows down the Hermes development. Is a lot of the team just uses like this is the profile, this is the agent. They're not spinning up like 30 agents. Like contrast to OpenClaw. OpenClaw would have like hundreds and hundreds of sessions running. Like they would literally just spin out millions of dollars of tokens, whereas it's a lot slower development because like I use maybe 3 or 4 agents on different parts of the code base, and like it's just whatever a human can handle. And then the team has their different ownerships. So the multiplayer aspect, like nobody in the Hermes team is using like I'm talking to Technium's agent. Like it's not useful, but it is useful for the agents to talk to each other if they own different parts of the code base and like
Right, that's what I was curious about in terms of not necessarily human agent multiplayer, but agent multiplayer among people who own different agents.
Yeah.
So that aspect.
So like for example, when in the development side, like one agent has permanent. This is part of the bot's new thing. Is like one agent is like now the maintainer for this part of the code base inside of like Technium's profile. And so like okay, we have a new PR, we're working on it, and it wants to ship something. Well, it's got a PR. It pings the maintainer agent for that part of the code base and says, okay, let's have a conversation about this. And he says, well, it has these problems, and it kind of solves like the same approach me and him are doing individual by having different bots that own different things. Like that's their permanent. Everything's in the remote. Hermes is moving to remote as well, like spinning up remote servers. That's because that's the only thing they can sell. Like because they don't sell credits. I mean, they do sell credits, but people aren't buying 10%. Like, there's no revenue in that. So they're selling remote Hermes gateways and servers as like the future on their end for revenue basis.
All right, I'm going to change the topic. We're going to move to, we're going to use the Slido thing, which is why we made it. So I'm going to, this one had the most likes. So I'm just going to read it, and let's see if we have a discussion here. I would like to discuss the strategy of using the minimum viable intelligence for tasks going forward, as perhaps a worker whose intelligence barely crosses the bar for the task will follow instructions best and communicate most plainly, as opposed to intelligence maxing, where on the upside you may get a genius who does things in an elegant and efficient way, but on the downside might instead do midwit over-engineering and communicate with you in a fox intelligent way that gives you a headache.
Omar, is this you?
It's not me. I'm not anonymous. But I want to say that if it wasn't this anonymous, I would have read this thing because it read my mind. This is exactly what I think.
Yeah, that's what I thought it was.
So we want to talk about this.
I like it. Who is anonymous, by the way? Who, it's you? Okay.
I knew it.
Good
I got
one.
it right.
I mean, we share some stuff together. So, yeah, I've had that experience of, you know, I think the best model experience I had so far, honestly, was the GPT 5.4.
Yeah.
That was a model that literally just followed instructions, did what I wanted to do. It made things simple. I mean, I gave it a spec, it did it. I didn't have to go too much back and forth with it. It didn't over-engineer. It didn't try to be smart about everything. And since then, it kind of went downhill. I mean, the models got more intelligent on paper. They're better at benchmarks. They can do more complex stuff, but they're not good at communication. They're not good at, you know, just, I don't know, common sense, just understanding what you want and just doing it.
So the issue is the way they communicate you? Is that
It's the communication and their, I mean, I don't know if it might be their reinforcement learning. I mean, they're training to, maybe they're being trained on, I don't know, huge, complex enterprise code bases, and everything they do, every piece of code they spit is like super complex and completely unrelated to what you actually want to do.
Okay.
Yeah, and they have this communication issue, like you talked about it. I mean, they talk to you with crazy jargon-based English, so you cannot understand what they're talking about. You have to humanize it.
Claudish language.
Claudish language. I mean,
Yeah.
it's also weak.
Yeah. It's
So
the Opus 5 situation that you basically can't read. It's like a sentence that is, it's an essay packed into a sentence.
Yeah, then you have to do row, and then it just talk to me like a human. I mean, and then it, or use simplified technical English, and that's my experience. I mean, maybe I don't want to use the smartest model right now. Maybe I just want a model that follows instructions and, you know, does what the spec says, and that's
Sure.
it. It's done. I mean, that's
Yeah.
what I want.
I think there's a lot of discussion points here, and we can. I think there's a separation too of things being discussed. But let's go around the room. Yes.
I think the question gets at the routing issue of
Yeah.
how do you know what kind of level the task requires of intelligence. And I don't know what other people do, but I tend to think that if there's a good spec, the actual mechanistic writing of the code could be done by a lesser, like more of a dimwit than the orchestrator perhaps, who needs to have a long context and be able to pull a thread through all of that. That's coherent.
Yeah. Yeah, and you see this with the Luna-Maxine, DeepSeek strategies, right? Fable architect, DeepSeek implementer, that sort of thing. That's you're kind of in that. You're referring to that, right?
So more of a question actually of how do other people see this? Is it possible to combine stronger and weaker models?
Yeah. Oh,
It's necessary. It's not
who's doing this? I'd love to hear.
I've been trying initially. I went off when Codex and Claude. I was switching between these two. I started using open code, and then you have to pick your own model over there. So I was using Open Router, and then on Open Router they had this option of auto routing, which didn't work for me. And then with the costs going up, you have the Pareto chart. Everybody's using, so they have the Pareto router. So why to start using that? And that's also not accurate if they've got the grading on quality versus cost. So you can move that around, but it's still not giving me the exact answers. So the best kind of solution what I have is I started using this new harness called Prime Agent, who's trending on Twitter recently.
Prime Intelligence.
Prime Intelligence, yeah. And they have the RLM built in, so it's learning from my feedback. So if I'm using a 5.6, let's say Luna, and it's spitting out a lot of junk, about like 200 words output. So I'm giving it feedback. They give me just the accurate answer to what I'm looking for. Don't go off board. It did that about like 5-6 times, and with the combination of Pareto router, it's picking the correct model now, and it's giving me the exact answers, and the harness is keeping the model in check. So I'm kind of getting it, but it's just been 5 days of using that. No, 3 days of using it, and the cost is about $3 for about 4 200 million tokens.
Oh,
So not bad.
right, yeah. Yeah, not bad at all. Wait, we had, okay, he's not looking, yeah, go ahead.
So everybody hears me and Omer complain about this. I'm not going to complain about it. You probably read my post about it. But I've complained enough about it. Some of my Codex friends messaged me about it. So the thing that actually Codex is having the issue with right now is like why the over-hardening is happening is because of the cyber risk and the vulnerabilities. So the problem is that like we can build something, and so we can have a lower tier model and a cheaper model, build something very fast, it works, and it like works to all of our capabilities. The problem is all the new open models can find vulnerabilities like that, and they don't want to be responsible for like, oh, well, I built something and now my site is hacked, because we're like 2 or 3 months away from everything getting hacked, right? And so the over-engineering, like and from their perspective, they don't want to go back, and everything's going to take a lot longer to code. And 5.6 model is actually, it works from their perspective because the over-engineering is by design for security vulnerabilities, and so that like it's their way to prevent issues later. And so while I hate the over-engineering, I complain about it a lot, their whole perspective is, yeah, we can give you exactly what you want, but it's got 2,000 vulnerabilities in it because we just gave you 100 lines of code, and our system sees all of this, and so like, they see it as we're not going back. Like the future is going to be over-engineering. It's going to be more enterprise because the open models can just hack your shit no problem. And there's going to be all these issues. And so that's their perspective, is that like things are going to take longer. And actually coding is going to be a lot longer. The solo guy is going to be the vibe coder. We need to solve this for him because he's going to just cry about it later and say, my Codex built something and now I got hacked by a Chinese hacker and all my shit's stolen. And so like that's their internal perspective, because I argue about it a lot.
So you're saying that's a reason to use more intelligence?
It's the reason to use more intelligence. So like we're talking about pricing like that. They're trying to think ahead, like, I bitch about it enough. And their whole thing is like, we're trying to protect you in the sense of like 2 months from now, all your code's going to get hacked because you tried to use a lower tier model and you added all these vulnerabilities in. So yeah, everything's going to take longer. And this also is in their favor, right, of like spend more tokens, right? We want you to spend more tokens. But it's also like, the 5.6 was designed to build in security for you and over-engineer so that you didn't get hacked, because they didn't want people to, posting, oh, all my shit's hacked now from vibe coders because 5.3 or 5.2 GLM hacked all my shit, right?
So are you saying that Claudish is a side effect?
Claudish is different. I'm just talking about Codex.
But the probably applies to
It
right?
probably applies to Claude as well because they're trying to protect
what I wonder
users.
is why this Claudish thing happens. Is it a side effect of the need to over-engineer, or is it something they built in to token?
This we don't know. I don't think
Yeah,
this is published at all, but go ahead. What is
Semantic compression, that's how they call it, when it tries to compress more meaning into those tokens. It has a lot of meaning, but it wants to produce like half the token, of course. Make up those impossible words in English, this jargon, to compress the meaning.
So it's a feature.
It's a feature, yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay. So let's start with an analogy. I don't know if anyone has a background in media stuff, but in music production, especially if you're doing professional stuff, you never update your OS, right? This is like a very famous thing.
Yeah, because everything breaks.
Far back, right? Until either like the last version of that the new operating system, and everyone has verified that like nothing breaks, right? Or you're really gonna jump forward. You're gonna like the thing of, oh my God, I'm gonna migrate everything, and if everything breaks and I have to be here 2 weeks, then like, because some new technology has come out, like stem separate, some AI thing that I needed, right? So what's the point? You see musicians that are running computers, like Pro Tools stuff from like 20 years ago, right? Because it fucking works. And like all the routing fucking works, and I don't fucking touch it, right? And so I'm just thinking about like this with respect to the question of like, okay, so what do some musicians do, right? You have your like production workstation, and maybe on your laptop, you're willing, everything's broken anyway, it's like beta in a way, right? So for me to like coming back to like what is anyone actually doing with all of this stuff? I would say 90% of the stuff I build is, first of all, it's on like my own Docker Tailscale thing, where the hacking thing, it's not even a thing. They can't get into Tailscale, right? Like I can access it now, but you guys can't, right? And so my point is that all of a sudden in that world, dude, fuck codecs, and I don't need, this stuff is only making everything I do worse, right? And you couple that with the fact that like the uncomfortable reality is Kimi and DeepSeek and whatever.
GLM.
Yeah, thank you. Are like they're not worse anymore. So this whole idea of like a smart orchestrator, I almost think this is like mental tech debt. I'm not convinced that the American models are so much better at orchestrating than the cheap, you know, dimwit Chinese models. Like in that, obviously that's new from like a couple months. So what it makes me think is like, okay, maybe for 90% of what I do, this is increasingly like a solved problem. And to Omer's point, it's like, how do I get the most locked in system? That's why I brought up music production, like music production. Actually, I should have started with this. Almost like a local LLM, and it's never gonna change. I'm gonna be on Quen 3.8 for the next 20 years, and 90% of what I do is on that. It never changes, the OS never changes, and then the 10% of the bleeding edge of multiplayer, public facing, it's like it's good, I agree, it's good that all of this exists. I'm not knocking its existence for the cybersecurity, but when do these benefits, because these people need this, become your liability because you don't need this? Right?
Sure. Oh yeah. Well said.
And how do you juggle this? And you know, I have found the reason I asked the question is that I'm trending toward dumber models because I had the exact same experience. For me, Opus 4.5 was the peak of writing, like prose, and GPT 5.4 was the peak of like, oh, you just did everything I said and you were very terse in your description and it was just like a tool. And now everything's spiraling and it's like, I want to get back to that.
Right.
And the way that I currently approximating getting back to that is finding dumber and dumber models that don't have the capacity to do more than just be a tool that communicates plainly, but still crosses the bar of like doesn't fuck, where I'm not like, you stupid, right? Where it just does it.
Sure. Yeah.
So when you're searching, when we're all searching for models, I know there's a big market of models.
Sure.
But the market for harnesses is not that huge. And that's where the engineering of getting deterministic output is valuable. I think if we solve for a harness, I think models are going to be, you can pretty much get what you want out of it at like at least the engineering level. But if you're doing research, maybe you need a better model for all of that. But I think once we solve for a good harness, and then you can pick pretty much any model, because if you have...
Is that true? I'm not saying you're wrong by any means, but if someone had quizzed me on what you just said, I would totally disagree. I would say only because GPT 5.4 to this, or Opus 4.5 to Opus 4.8, in the same harness for me, and I'm sure people had different experiences than I did, was a total degradation to the point that I don't want to use this harness or this model anymore because this memory I have is now gone. Like whatever this was no longer exists, and the only thing that changed from my vantage point was the model. Now Andrew's always thinking about no, it's not the model, it's the fucking harness they're updating in there. So I don't know.
So you're right. So the point in time you're talking about is when both companies started to focus on efficiency and saving money versus just building the best model, right? Like it's one of the problems we have like with 5.6, like anything after 5.4 and the 4.5 series, like the company said, okay, our model's much smarter, but it's even more expensive to deliver. We need to start focusing on optimization. And like, there's a whole team of codecs that just focus on optimizations to deliver you less for the same price, right? And that's where everyone's complaining, and that's, I mean, it's interesting you point that point of time out, because that's when, you know, better models started coming out, but the team's also focused on how can we deliver this for less money, right? Like there's a hardware team optimizing on hardware, which hardware delivers for the savings cost. It's literally like they have like PE, private equity guys in there. They're just like, how can we deliver this for less money and give, you know, the same benchmark, right? And that's the feeling I think everybody has, like from that point in time.
What do you think?
I think that's the observation is true that you mentioned. The harness does a lot of the heavy lifting, so much so that I find I can use relatively crappy local models to do research tests because it just keeps it on the rail and makes sure that, so if you have something where it's like goal oriented, you can test for the output, you can compare it versus like a benchmark, then you don't even need to fine tune anything, it keeps being reined in by that harness. So I like the Chinese models.
I'll add to it, like all the
please.
harnesses, they have their flaws in it. And I'm kind of like leaning towards David's way of, I want to step away and get a deterministic output from each harness. But each harness has their faults. I mean, some of them you cannot work with the UI, you cannot take your cursor and point at things. Some harnesses you cannot talk to them. Some harnesses are very tied into a specific model, so you just have to pick what you want.
Sure. I just for what it's worth, I primarily the 90% for me is in open code at this point.
And so to your ask earlier, also on the Hermes side, Hermes was built for local models, like cheap models, and it's one of those things where it's very interesting. It's the only harness. Your original question, I couldn't give you an answer.
Sure. Hermes
works like amazingly well benchmark-wise on local and cheap models that I would never use on any other system. Like it was designed that way. OpenClaw never was designed that way. It was built on like Claude and the codecs, so it's never done well on open models, especially with like GLM and GLM's okay now, but also like the Quinn series does terrible on it. But Hermes, the one thing that separates it from everyone else is it does well on any open model because that's all the team uses, and everything has to pass the same benchmarks. So it's the weird thing that really sets it apart is that it works really great for like the old Quinn, everything else, but also frontier models. Like, and that doesn't happen in other harnesses. Codex does really shitty if you try to plug Quinn into it, right? Like,
so if you were to start with the test like Hermes first time now ever, which model of subscription or something, which one would you pick?
It's the team benches every single one of the models plugged in. So any model you want to use, it still benches higher. Like the goal is like every model in the system should bench better than Codex, like default. Like because Codex has its own default, like the benchmark just to use Codex. And so one of the problems with regular benchmarks is they usually use agnostic harness. So like they all have it's the model benchmarking on that, and nobody releases actual like harness benchmarks because they're all over the place, right? So Hermes' whole thing is like, okay, we compare actual Codex harness versus Hermes harness, not Codex on an agnostic adapter like everyone does for SWE and stuff, right? That's the best way to test a model, but not a harness.
Somebody had their hand raised? Yes.
I'm curious because we're talking about intelligence of models, but there is also my own intelligence. So how much I actually understand this model. So what I did for myself, I tried to make sure that the model helps me understand myself better. So when I create an input, there is a skill that translates my own input for myself, so I understand myself better, maybe catch my own assumptions. And the second, when I get an output, there is another skill that goes and goes like higher abstraction levels, and I just say optimize for business strategy, product. Talk to me from user point of view or me as operator, but don't go too deep unless you explain why. So I guess I'm curious if you solve for the bottleneck of your own intelligence somehow in that way, or not.
That's why for me it's all about the turn, because the turn is where the complexity of the prompt is, and I need it explained as a story, as what are the decisions. I wanted to break up into all the different simplistic terms that I can make a good decision on. And that other thing about cheap models, everything that I do gets recorded, so my Claude sessions, my voice logs, in fact every application I write now writes detailed logging streams, not for building the applications, but because half the intelligence is lost as exhaust, and you want models to go and reprocess that exhaust a week later, a month later, and go, was there useful information that we can use today, rather than having an expensive model just try and create something really intelligent, but not actually in alignment with what you were doing. So for me, it's all about looking at that data right in front of me and making it simple to understand.
But maybe we move on to another question. There was a whole bunch of submitted. Let's take a look here. We have maybe this one here. Let me see if this.
Oh, there's yours.
Yeah, mine I think we opened up with. So, all right, let's go. Are modern models? This is actually the same question, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's the same. Is it? Do you think we should still dig into it?
Well, we can go back to this point about the jargon.
This question, I mean, the only different thing here is the last sentence. Like, we will get to the point that models create implementations of architecture that we cannot understand at all.
Good question.
I mean, that's the thing I'm a bit worried about, because once we get to the point where, like you said, this great feature of the smart models and forcing us to use all this crazy hardening and over-engineering to protect ourselves from being hacked. I mean, once we get forced to do that, unless we intentionally choose to use cheaper models, I mean, are we going to get to the place where we just don't understand what we're creating? I mean,
I think we're already
just
there.
Trust people
Yeah, we're already there.
Crazy architecture that works, and you're this little human, and you don't even understand what I did, but it works, and just trust me.
Like, if we open up anyone's GitHub in here and ask them to explain their code, I think most people would say that they would give like, okay, I think it works this way, and then we have an AI actually explain it. It would say, actually,
I'm not worrying this way, by the way. I mean, I'm against that. I mean, I would like to own what I'm creating. It doesn't mean like reading every single line of code, but I'm into owning what I'm creating. I don't trust AI to have the right alignment. I mean, it's smart, but it doesn't have the right alignment to understand exactly what I want. So it might create something that's perfectly working, but it's just not what I want.
Yeah,
So
how
how
do you find the answer to this is I think another question. How do you find an answer to how to answer this?
I just want to ask the question, how far into the future does that scale? Like, does that philosophy today, is it going to work 12 months from now?
It has to work, because do you want AI to decide for us what we're going to do? I mean, do you want us to
do I
use
want
AI
it
as a
is a
tool,
different
or?
question to
But what the
will it
companies are
happen
doing.
automatically. Do I want it as a different question to will it happen automatically? That's why I'm asking you, why would that be your point of view when, because my philosophy is different, is that as soon as ChatGPT came out, I vibe coded everything, from the very beginning, because I had a belief that it wasn't about learning to code anymore, it was about learning to prompt. That was my belief 3 years ago. So my question to you is, why would you want to really own the architecture and understand it when a year from now or 2 years from now,
Because I want to know that I did what I wanted.
I can answer that. It's like if I'm talking to some of my friends or my clients, and I'm asking them with this, and they ask me how this thing is working, and I can't explain. I've been in these situations so many times where they ask me, how is this working? Can you go ahead and fix this? I'm running into these issues. It takes me a while to figure out how this thing is working. And at most of the times, I now don't even know how it's working. And I say, oh.
So what do you tell them? What do you use?
This is a full stack application that's written in TypeScript.
Yeah.
And this is how I pull the data. I go and look at, there is a bash script pull in from a CSV file, spitting it out, and you are like, okay, I didn't expect that, but
Sure.
it's working. It was working.
Yeah.
But it takes me a while to explain it to.
But and I'd be asking, why do you need to explain stuff to people? Like that architecture might be chewing gum or sticky tape. It very well could be, right? Just it's being held together. But as we work through our prompt engineering and our harness engineering, and we put in agents designed to improve the quality of the code, that should clean up over time as well. Because I'm not even I don't even believe that the code I write should really matter that much. The only thing that matters is the recipe that comes out of the code, because the recipe is what can reproduce that application.
Can you define recipe for every, like, it might have multiple meanings, it's very ambiguous.
So you're speaking Claudish right now.
So for me, if I wanted to make a cake, I need a recipe, and if I want that cake to be better than what the recipe can produce, I can give it a better model, but the recipe will reproduce that application again on its own, and hopefully better if you bring in a better model. So I take it. It's a little bit of a spec, but a spec never thinks about all the problems we had getting from spec to end product, right?
Sure.
So it's the spec plus the journey to the destination. It's all written up. And so when we built this application, this was our spec, this is what we got, these are our screenshots, and this was the shit show we went through, right? All of that is useful. And then you can theoretically feed that event source log into another model and say, reproduce the application again. And if you're better at security penetration than that one, then it should be a better application just from that point of view. It might even be totally architected different.
You're coming from an assumption that the model is doing exactly what you want, and it's just getting better, doing better security, it's doing exactly what you want for, and understand your intent and your objective.
Not making that full assumption. There is an assumption there, yes. But there's also an assumption that we're building more and more harnessing to protect ourselves around it as well. It's not just the model. In fact, I don't even think the model is that important. I think it's the other checks and balances you put around the model. And that's why, for me, I don't necessarily know the architecture of the 50 or 60 applicants. I don't even know the code base.
It doesn't scale in order to, if you think in that direction. You know, for one of the things I do is like, I sort of put on I remember in my career when I got out of being an individual contributor, got out of being a team lead, and as you start to get to these leadership positions, you have to be, the struggle that I had was to get away from the code decisions that were being made and realizing that it kind of didn't matter. Like someone did something and I definitely wouldn't have done it that way, but I had to accept it. And I remember keenly that when I embraced that thinking, like, okay, I have to accept this person's way of thinking, turns out the world didn't end and it didn't collapse. Like, company was fine, the product still grew.
There is a big difference. Keep talking, I'll tell you the difference.
We can jump into it right away. Like,
yeah. So humans understand long-term maintainability. They have a long-term objective. They have an agenda about the project, and an LLM doesn't understand anything about maintainability. It has this session from start to end. Start task, end task, test pass. I just talked about it in the WhatsApp group. There is this benchmark that they exposed it about, slot detection.
The slot bench,
So that's it's a slot bench. So basically, you take a model, and you don't give it one task. You give it multiple tasks in steps. Each one starts from a fresh context, and it builds on each other. You give it like multiple iterations over a repo, and you see what happens. It turns into a huge ball of spaghetti because it has no perception of long-term maintainability. It doesn't have some, long-term objective for how the project should look like. It just cares about accomplishing the task right now. The models are not even tuned or optimized for maintainability because it doesn't market well. They just care about those benchmarks. Look, it did 80, 90, whatever percent on whatever benchmark, it passed all the tests, it's green. And if a model produces architecture that you cannot understand, and you let it iterate over and over and over the same project, you're going to get something that's out of control. The model itself will not be able to control it anymore because it's unmaintainable. That's what happened with court models. As long as they don't fix that, as long as they don't start to optimize for that long-term, coherence and repeatability for record, it's not sustainable to work this way.
So I think there's two things. Go ahead. Sorry.
Sorry to interrupt. I think it depends on the task, right, Dave? If it's well defined and you know what the output should look like, of course we can have another model like compete on the output. But if it's more research development, like an open-ended, open horizon thing, well, it needs someone to understand what's going on and if we're getting closer to the goal. And if, like, I've been there with someone and they're like, well, how does it work? I was stumped. So I think that's very concerning at that point.
I think that kind of justifies the increase in hiring of software engineers, is because everybody has built all these multiple apps, and now you need someone to, hey, can you just watch this thing and make sure it doesn't break?
Sure. Yeah. Makes sense.
So I was gonna say, like you've said two things, right? On one hand, the model it's not simple enough. It doesn't do the exact work. On the other hand, it overcomplicates it, right? I think from the perspective of the people building the models, like, you can't have the best of both worlds. Either the model's going to architect for you, or it's going to do exactly what you say, and then you're mad it didn't architect it, right? So it's like you're unhappy either way.
I would like to have a setting I can toggle to choose.
But that's what
average
Kannas.
Joe vibe coder mode, just do everything, for the average Joe vibe coder, including security and architecture. Or me, an engineer, I just want you to do what I want you to do.
Well, I think what they're trying to do at the best place is orchestration, to where you have a model that is architecting and then handing everything out to other agents. That solves some of the loop and issue of just a single model, just go build this, right? And then a lot of things like, for example, like with I keep speaking of Hermes. Hermes forces a lot of questions with a clarify skill and like 2 or 3 other skills for questioning, because that's one of the issues that users actually hate. I've actually found my users hate being asked questions. They're so lazy now, they don't want to answer any questions about architecture and things like that they don't know, and then it actually leads to like worse results. But they don't want to answer the question. So I've actually had to force my users and my companies to start using more questions, and they're like, wow, it actually works. Because they've gotten so lazy of like the slop, just building something, but it actually not kind of working. And so, like, as a model builder, it's really hard to figure out how you do it.
Maybe the communication issue from the model, the way the question asks.
Could be.
Could be.
One of them. Go ahead.
I was thinking about this. When I leave here, I often think about this. It's like the idea of having someone I have to talk to about what I'm doing. I'm like, whoa, what? What are you talking about? Like, me personally, my vector is solo unicorn, right? Like, from the beginning when I heard that phrase, I was like, I want to be that, right? Now, obviously, it sounds nice, right? But I think that's a very important distinction. It's like, what are people trying to do, and who do they have to communicate with, and how many people are involved? And the reason I bring it up is because it's like different things are relevant to people that are not relevant to other people. And if you don't have that in mind, there's like literally no way to do anything but talk past each other. Yeah, like what you're saying, hey, amen, namaste to you. Like, that's the last thing I ever want to do. I'm like, what are you in 1943 or something? Like, I don't want to know anything. Now I do, like, meaning I do know a lot about what I'm doing because I need to in 2026 August in order to get the results. But if in 2028 May I don't, yay.
Yeah.
Like, and it comes back to the thing with like Boris, right? It's like I have things I want to do in the world, and this is just the leverage that hopefully will enable me to do them. What it looks like inside, I don't give a shit. Now maybe I will lose the solo unicorn race because that's a bad strategy, right? Like, the person who knows more will beat me, right? Just like Zuck is a great coder, right? Maybe that, so I don't know, right? All of these things are bets, and some will, but then again, it also depends on like what are you trying to do. If your vector is not the solo unicorn and you want to do SMB or something like that, then yeah, maybe there's a lot of things that, or I guess the simple way to say it is, it seems like a lot of this is extremely path dependent on what.
Yeah, I
what
totally
you're
agree.
trying
The
to
nuance here is only growing. There's only more complexity being added in, not less. And so like I can easily see a world, it's already the case, where like everything everyone is saying is correct according to the scenario and the situation that's being explained. One second, I do remember vividly like being in some companies and walking into some teams that were managing the apps that no one gave a shit about, and seeing that the apps were a total disaster code-wise, but the company was still going. Those apps were there for like 10 years. You know what? Whatever. Like I could have easily put my architect hat on and been like, what the fuck? Like this is all trash. This has got to go. But that would have cost more money. It wouldn't have made sense. There was a $7 an hour guy looking at it. You know what? Fine. It's great. And so like I try to think about all those scenarios, and once I just come back to it's so incredibly nuanced and complex. Go ahead.
So if I was a client buying somebody else building me software, and then it comes back to me and I'm like, okay, tell me about it. What is this? And how did you build that? And if all I'm getting back is like, trust me, bro, and it works, that would not be acceptable. I need to
As opposed to what though?
I need to at least get an answer from the person, like either you need to be able to explain how the system works, like architecture, or in my case, a very in-depth system, how he built the system. Like, did you run all the security?
That's kind of like a user problem though, of like, if you're working with a client, are you scoping it out? Or are you also trust me broing, like they're just like, go build me an app. And you're like, cool, I'll build you an app, right? Like, because if you're working with a client, you have to scope it out first. And that's how you scope out your evals.
Yeah.
And then however you build it, you still, like, you have to test it before you deliver it to the client. And so I think we're thinking ephemerally, like just kind of in the cloud, but actually how we work and how anyone that works with successful clients, you're going to scope it out. You're going to eval it, you're going to test it before you deliver to them, and so you're going to know something about the architecture. You might not know which library something's using, but you do know how it was built and tested, like you have to. There's no way to test it without doing it.
I think the whole world runs on trust me, bro. Like for
like,
all of us on the dev side.
If you're trying to build Netflix or Spotify,
Sure.
your customer is not going, hey, tell me how this works.
Right, they don't know.
Yeah, how does your video
to
compression?
Me, I feel like, where is everyone's ambition? Like, why are you trying to have clients as opposed to, now again, obviously, I don't judge, but to me, it's like, why aren't we have this genie? Like, why aren't you trying to build something where you don't have someone to answer to, right? Where you're the person that is answered to. Now, I can be very judgmental, I understand, but it's like if you don't keep that in mind, like no one is asking Netflix and Spotify, tell me how this works. Now maybe the employees are, okay, that's a totally different conversation, right?
No, even there, I bet only a few % no.
Or even actually,
care.
no, better. Like, what are the biggest companies right now? OpenAI and Anthropic. Andrew shows up and is like, yo, they're hiring these kids at OpenAI that don't know shit.
I think about this all the time.
All this stuff you're using to make your great architected whatever that you know how it works is being made by people that aren't doing that.
Right.
So like, again,
because they're betting on the other team to make something better in 3 months,
yeah,
and
exactly.
to fix the problems.
And
right?
thus far, I would argue, now this is debatable, like that strategy keeps winning. To come back, I always remember the thing when Ian came back from Japan of like, Anthropic was like, oh, remember when we had meetings and plans? Like, no, that's over now because things are, like, even in the past 6, like, it's fucking every day now. Grok 4.6, DeepSeek 4 Pro, Quen 3.8, it's not slowing down. The quantity of things being released, the quality of things being released, it just keeps exponentializing. And so, again, that doesn't prove that the correct bet is to throw caution to the wind. But the people that are doing that as of now in both China and America, at least I would argue, are the ones winning. And to not at least take that into consideration in your calculus, like your decision, is like, why not? Like, they're winning, shouldn't you
Good point. That's a really good, there's a framework here. I don't know what it is, and I would love to know, how should we operate in this type of world, right? We have now hit this moment of singularity, so to speak, constant releases of stuff. How should we operate? How should we care? Or should we, how do we determine, like, oh, I care about this, I don't care about that? Is it the nuanced thing about I should only care depending on my scenario? I don't know. Like, I'm curious. How are you guys all managing all this? Do you just like close your ears, close your eyes, come here, hear a little bit about what's going on?
He said, yeah.
Yeah.
That's where I'm coming.
Yeah, that's totally fine. I'm curious. Like, share, please, around the room. What are you doing? How are you determining to care about something or not?
I speak on code, and when everyone agrees about something here, I change.
I think he hit something kind of scary though, and then like developers, like I actually think it's not about the next AI model. I actually think that everyone in here has to change internally who you are, right? We've hit this point where now the AI model can do everything, and it's like everything that actually held you back in development, like the AI model is better than every single one of us as a developer, right? There's no question about that. And so what holds you back is your human skills. Can you market? Can you sell, right? Because what's holding everyone back, and I'm getting my coach perspective, is you can build everything you ever dreamed of. Do you have the ambition to do it? And really, do you have the other skills you need to build a team and everything else to be successful? Because now we're replaced, right? Like we can be replaced very easily. So can we as humans adapt and increase our capabilities to the next 1.0? Otherwise, we're now dinosaurs, right? Like I'm coming from, I'm an engineer, electrical engineer, so I'm not as good of a coder as most people probably are in the room. But it's given me a lot of skills, and I'm really good at sales and marketing, so I have a company and I make money and things like that. Whereas developers have been so siloed, right? You didn't develop marketing skills, you didn't do other things, but now like, your actual things that made you valuable is like, okay, it's not there anymore, right? So how do we improve the other skills that make us more valuable? That's one thing I've seen in this community outside of San Francisco. San Francisco, a lot of the people you just hit on, they're just like, oh yeah, I'm like this ex-CEOs that are good at marketing, sales, fundraising, but they have no technical ability, right? And they're being successful because they're just putting together teams and building, whereas like we're a bunch of solo engineers mostly. I'm just speaking on average. And everyone's like they lack those skills because they didn't develop over time because they were the guys, the CTO, the secret holder, they could build everything, right? But it's like now you have the genie, they can build anything, and it's like, shit, I can actually build what I dreamed of, but I'm not doing it. Why not? Why am I not building the unicorn that I have now the access to do? And that's a question for every single person. I don't know. But I think that's very interesting because I meet a lot of people in the room too. I review people's projects, and I'm like, why aren't you building a team? Why aren't you doing marketing and sales too? Like, and why aren't you improving these skills? Why are we working on OMP and improving the harness more when our customers don't give a shit, right? Like actual customers don't care. They just care that it delivers the product, right? And so I think sometimes we get stuck in an engineering mindset. Anyways, I think that's a really interesting topic to talk about. Like, how do we improve our other skills and holes and team building and improve ourselves? I don't know, I sound like a Bali guy, but.
I really love that point. We spend so much time talking about how technology is changing, but there's not much discussion about how we need to change to adapt to that.
That is my perspective of like this group having been here for 3 or 4 months is like most people that I meet and I talk to, like it's actually human skills that we need to develop now. Like even me, I'm an asshole. So.
I want to answer from my side. I mean, my offering, my product is being an engineer. That's what I sell to people. I'm a freelancer. I mean, so when somebody works with me, what I'm providing to them is quality engineering. That's my product. So that's what I'm focusing. Not on marketing, not on.
But 6 months from now, our product is now less valuable, right? And that's what I'm trying to perspective.
I don't think so. I mean, I don't say it this way. I think it's just on a higher level. We're going to focus on different things. We're not going to disappear anywhere. I mean, it's not like you present it like it's an idealistic way, like, oh, this genie is just going to take all this engineering away from us and we just need to do marketing and all this stuff.
This is how the enterprise companies are thinking.
But the thing is that the important part is that the yes or no is actually irrelevant. The relevant part is that your product is quality engineering. If one's product is not quality engineering, is the 99.9999999% of things that are not quality engineering, a lot of the things you talk about or promote or whatever may actually hinder a person rather than benefit them. And to at least keep that in mind, that like what is your product, what is your goal, lead to very different ways of operating and what wins. As an example, in the San Francisco thing you talked about, like you look at Travis, right, with what he's doing, it's like fucking fast. The thing is speed. How much can you spin things up and get teams going and, you know, and moving? And
how fast can you get customers? Like, we never talk about that side of it. We're always talking about the architecture side, which is great, as engineers, but no one's talking about how do I get more traction and things like that, because that's all they talk about. If you walk into the room at San Francisco engineers, literally none of them know how the architecture works at all. They're just kind of like, yeah, it's been out, I got these customers.
That is amazing to hear. I actually want to hear more about that. So are we in a, you know, where this civilization that is running away, like are these folks? So we're talking about engineers, technically skilled, who don't care, like they're not talking about this stuff.
YC, and the YC startups, like nobody's talking about the products anymore in this sense of like the deep engineering. Everyone's talking about how fast we can get this to market, how much we can use the AI. Yeah. Token efficiency is great, and like some people, maybe an engineer on the team is like focusing on that. Like everyone has an Omer. Like if you're really successful, you have an Omer or like a CTO, but you kind of just ignore half of what he has to say. Not because this is, every CTO knows this. Like the CEO is going to ignore half of what you have to say, and then he's going to go get money, and then later he's like, we'll fix it later. And it's the same thing as fundraising. I come from startups, right, which is technical debt, right? In 3 months, we'll fix the technical debt with a new round of money. In this case, it's just switched to, in 3 months, we'll fix it with a new AI model. The new AI model will fix the technical debt in 3 months anyways. And that's how everyone's looking at it, right? And so, and like in YC, literally, they're even bringing in old folks like me and you now into YC. It's the first time ever they're bringing in batches of older engineers and older people that are just like, okay, great, like let's build faster products, iterate. Like used to YC only took in college kids, but now actually this batch, I think the average age is like 33. So
yeah,
like,
I'm seeing this from like Cloudflare, Vercel. You hear about it from Anthropic. You hear about it from OpenAI, where you're hearing that there's an ever-growing number of PRs being auto-merged, where the engineer is distant from all the shit that's happening. In other words, like features are being built, bugs are being patched.
And you know who made that possible? Who
AI.
created that crazy, super, you know, guardrailed, complex system that allowed that to happen? Engineers.
I'm missing two things here.
yeah.
There's a world of MVP startups.
Sure.
There's a world of highly engineered, sophisticated medical and financial systems that are running. The planes are flying. We don't want to break any of that software. We don't want to manipulate that. Right?
Yeah.
So I think Omar's talking about that highly reliable systems. And then on the other hand, we're talking about the startups trying to get most customers, get off the ground, and then you start growing and stable. So
yeah,
I think we should, whenever we discuss, I think we should just.
This is also the issue with models, right? Like one of the things I found on prompting 5.6, if you just tell 5.6 the scale you're trying to build for, it will fix most of the architecture because its default scale is like 10,000 users. Like, but if you say I'm only trying to build for 100 users, oh, okay, let's throw away 90% of the code I just made, right? But also in this room, how many people are actually enterprise, like trying to build the enterprise system, right? Like building like the next air traffic control.
Yeah, no, I work with logistics companies, so they're highly regulated. DOT is like very regulated. So the benefit for me with this is I can set a customized software for each company. There could be a company of 5 people. There are companies who are like 200 people working in office. There are companies who are like just 1 person. So 1 person running a company is running the software in a very different way. 10, 15 are working in a different way. 200 are working in a very different way. So my software, my pitch has to be very customized for all of them. But the benefit with this is I've done the whole system once. I can spin out one product for each company and demo it so that it's easier to close. So that's the benefit for me with this. I'm spinning out 2,500 products right now, which is a slightly deviation of the core product, but I can reach out to each customer and then say, hey, this is purely tailored for you, for your company. Kind of works.
I do appreciate the soup, by the way. You know, like technical up, like going up and down the stack, super important. We need that perspective in here. So I do appreciate this. Actually, I think if we ever reach a point where you say I don't care anymore about the code, I think
That's a milestone.
Right. I totally agree with what you're saying, and I totally appreciate you, right? And I'm very serious. I'm not trying to be whatever. The meta question to me is like, how do we have the most productive conversations here where we're not talking past each other? Because to your point, I didn't know that's what you're working on, right? That totally changes how I contextualize everything you contribute, right? And when I say, oh, I'm trying to do solo unit, it's the same, right? It's like, oh, okay, I get where this guy's coming from, and I should keep that in mind when I listen to everything he said. It, like, I guess the ultimate thing, to me at least, would be like, is there an intersection of the Venn diagram between these two things? I'm not sure that there is. I think the answer may be no. But if there is, then like that seems like maybe the place that it would be the most productive, because everyone is kind of needs this one thing.
I don't know how do we find it?
There was a conversation that Nick, Tanvir, myself, and I think Tony were involved in it, which was just incredibly insightful for what type of engineers we were. Because we're all programmers, we're all doing engineering. And our approach to coding was totally different. And Tanvir said, you've got to look at how you make money. What's your technique for making money? I'm a YouTuber. My approach to engineering is very different to an enterprise architect, which is very different to a SaaS platform guy, which was Tanvir, which was very different to Tony doing individual sales of products. We're all engineers, but we approach our engineering totally different, only for that one reason, our monetization model.
Sure.
And I'd love to understand, I think what you've said about how do we make money, how do we step out of engineering into actually making money
Which is really just outcome, right? Like how do you make outcomes that people will pay for?
Yeah.
So is the insight here that this tension and uncomfortableness is actually growth? Because you sort of walk out of this saying like, look, there's all this shit happening, it's overwhelming, it's confusing. I come here and I realize I actually don't have to care about it. Great, that's a huge win, right? Like the multiplayer stuff doesn't apply to me. I'm not saying that's all of you, I'm saying some of you might be thinking that, and some of you might be thinking the other side. The multiplayer stuff does apply to me, super important. It turns out I do need to pay attention over there. Maybe that is the learning that we walk away from, and like we walk out of this with that learning of that's the value, right? Like I don't have to freak out, the world is changing quickly. Turns out I don't have to care about most of it because these guys do, and I heard their opinion, and guess what? I realize it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So what Ozzy said is so much to the point, because we need to understand where each person is coming from. There's so many different use cases for this technology. I mean, one person is a solopreneur, and one person, I mean, like me, my offering is an engineer. I literally work with fintech, with military critical operations. I work with stuff where every person that doesn't read code, that's a vibe coder, would just not be able to apply. I mean, it just, I mean,
because you can't read
there's
code.
so many different use cases. You have to
Mission critical stuff, man.
You have, I mean, I understand my own spectrum. When I create certain stuff, when I create certain internal stuff or tooling, I don't care about the code. I mean, I can vibe code stuff. I don't care about it, but I have this spectrum where I know where something is critical and I need to be an engineer, and where something is not critical. And yeah, I can think more like, you know, an entrepreneur or marketer, or, you know, just make it work, make money, whatever. I can adjust myself. Everybody needs to know how to adjust myself, and we need to understand what's our need. I mean, he talked about, I mean, he doesn't need all this stuff. And it's true. I mean, he doesn't need all this stuff. I mean, you know, all this talk about tools like multiplayer that doesn't help him when he gets out of the room, and it doesn't help him do job or whatever. It's true. It's true for me, by the way, but it's not true for other people. So,
Right.
I mean, we are a diverse group here, so, once we understand our use cases, the spectrum, we can.
Should we
align
wear
better with this stuff.
should we wear name tags and just say what we do? I'm not even kidding. In the sense of like, because it's like someone's a hard engineer, someone's running a startup, right? Like, because it gives more context, right? Everything is. Because I think we don't give enough context. We don't speak as much on it. We don't know all the context. So understanding like how many people in here are actually running a startup or a business, like as a question. So, okay, how many of those are like have customers already? Everyone has customers, right? So it's a little different. And then the other half, what are you? Like people that didn't raise your hands, what do you do?
I work in a startup.
You work in a startup. You're an engineer startup. Okay. Anyone else?
I'm validating the product.
Oh, so you're still working on getting it to market. So.
Contractual research.
Okay, like engineer.
Coming in from a different background.
Oh, cool.
Background in the trajectory analysis.
And so probably about half of people run startups, and then about half are engineers. Just.
Yeah, I have no idea what the hell am I doing. That's the biggest thing. It's like back in, I was an engineer.
That's an AI.
Yeah, exactly. Because that's exactly the thing. It's like pre-AI, I would work on established principles. Somebody wrote me a paper going back to 1980s. This is
And
how
you just
do
execute.
software, and I would do that. And if I was to,
You were the model.
yeah, exactly. I had to make it sure, like, how do I build? I would pick the oldest running framework that still worked. Okay, I build, can't go wrong, and nobody's gonna get fired if I pick AWS. I would go the safest. But
boring
none of
stuff.
that exists anymore. It's every damn thing is new every day. So I mean, half the time I'm building, I have no goddamn idea what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I just want to add one more dimension to this, and this is probably a different conversation for next week. But I think one thing I think if you look at anybody who's in a senior technical position, they didn't just go there straight from college, right? Because they had an AI. They got there through many years of grinding and hard work at the level details. And yeah, okay, they're not writing code anymore, but they're managing a team and they're setting the technical direction for a company, and they know how to spot potential problems when somebody presents a design. And so I think part of it depends on where you are in your career. If you only ever vibe code, you're not going to be able to make those kind of senior technical decisions. So I think it's probably a separate discussion, but yeah, how is that going to impact the way that
When that system falls down, that system we talk about in Spotify, whatever, when that doesn't work for one day and the AI starts to generate stuff and the PR is going to merge, you know who they call at that time? An engineer. We've got to fix it.
Totally, yeah.
To
Last point,
that point, it's great. When Opus 4.5 came out, and then Karpathy had his tweet like, "Oh, everything's different now," and I was like, oh, "Okay, this is go time, so to speak." I'm a little bit, I would say, like Andrew in the sense of kind of like jack of all trades, kind of good at this and that. And I was like, okay, so what is going to be important to me? Because I don't want to read code. I want to go all in on this. And so I spent, a couple months like watching lots of YouTube videos. Some of you guys may know. I think it's called Principles of Software Architecture, something like that. Very famous book, right? And I was thinking, okay, well, that's going to be what's important, is the concepts of software architecture, so that I can really know that stuff cold, and then the agent can execute the good architecture, and then I won't get too much tech debt and the whole thing falls apart, right? So I'm just thinking that those kinds of things probably might be the intersection of the
how do you
diagram. Is no matter what you're doing, something like that, principles of, I'm sure that it's the same with distribution and customer. There are these things that no matter what you're doing are valuable, and no matter how you're doing it, are valuable, because you can't build anything without them.
Can I have one thing?
Make
closing
it,
statement.
Okay, make it quick.
So,
yeah, go ahead.
Because I was just saying, because I think Nick hit this earlier, and I think this is very important for us moving forward. And this is for Nick to kind of talk about too. Is like, we've hit this plateau of models, and so what is the next point of how we add value to each other, and how do we grow together? And it might be more talking about not this model versus that. Everyone's probably tired of me and Omer bitching about 5.6, right? And so it's like, how do we add value to the next level that's not just iterating on it? Like, how do we become better architects, better marketers, better
Sure.
at building the companies?
Good point.
I think the value that this group has is a lot of guys on the business side, a lot of guys on the insurance side. And I ran into this other issue recently was I gave my code base to a couple of freelancers. They're like, I'm not touching this because it's really bad. So it would be nice to kind of like pitch or discuss about what's the bare minimum of like this coding standards or the code that somebody's willing to touch and pick over somebody else's work and work
Good
on that
point.
using the agent.
Yeah.
Question is, do they ask agents to look at the code and then they?
I don't know, two of them were like, I'm not touching this.
So that's I want to segue that into, I'll close here with so I love that, and I'm like, okay, well we should talk about that. That should be a topic next week. How do we go from where we are to that? And I'm thinking about so this app, this Slido app we're using. I hear everybody's got all these like, can I do this? Can I do that? Can I do this magical thing in the WhatsApp chat and so on? And I think, sure, I don't care. I mean, it should. If that's what you want, we should do it. So I bring that up because there's an effort undergoing. We have now this Buzz channel, this Buzz community that I stood up. It's a free public thing from Block. And we started making this Slido clone. And there's development underway for building this thing up. And I'm just thinking all these features that you guys want, all this stuff about like, hey, we should come here next week and talk about that. Like that should be a feature that's built in. So I would say join that channel if you want to be part of that development experience, because I want it to be a multiplayer development experience so that we can like see what the hell that feels like, right? Because that's the other part of it too, like we got to experience that.
Yeah.
So there is a Buzz channel for that. Yeah, that's it.
It's a cool exercise because a lot of people don't have teams they work with probably on that kind of basis, so to collaborate is cool.
Yeah, totally.
Yes, I want to answer to Andy to how we can contribute to each other. That's something I offered to Nick already. So how about people do demos? I mean, how about